Hello, filmmakers. Welcome to episode 10 of FNI WrapChat. We have a lot of news actually this week. We are now on iTunes, SoundCloud, Podcast Addict, and Stitcher. So check us out.
Yeah, we stitched all of our platforms, all of our listening platforms together.
You complained and we listened and we sorted it out.
Yeah. How are yous? This is WrapChat with myself, Paul Butler Lennox, and
myself, Paul Webster. How have you been enjoying have you been enjoying?
How have you been? So how are you doing?
How have you been finding the podcast? Let us know. FNIRapChat@gmail.com or leave comments on SoundCloud or wherever. We want to hear from you.
Oh, and subscribe the shit out of the old podcast-aroo.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, we have a little bit of news from various different bits and pieces that have been coming in. Be sure to check out one of our previous podcasts with Mia Malarkey.
Episode 2.
I think, yeah. It's, so Mia has been... What happened with Mia? She won?
Mia won, so her film Mother and Baby won Best Short Documentary at Cork weekend before last. We both saw it just before she did the interview with us, and fantastic piece of work. She's been lighting up festivals. She won for her other short at Galway, and she's getting honourable mentions all over.
Yeah, she's a festival queen, but not in a kind of diva way. She's the nicest, one of the nicest people you'll ever come across. So today, welcome to a very this is first of all we have to apologise because we like the nomads that we are, we took the podcast out to the Abbey Theatre today to interview a wonderful actor and altruistic, mentor.
Life coach almost.
Yeah, a wonderful human being by the name of Nick Dunning. He's an actor. He's you might know him from some of his work. He's been in everything really.
Because we're underneath the stage, you can hear the Lewis and you can hear all sorts of people coming in and out. So we apologise for that, but we hope it doesn't take away from such a wonderful conversation that it was. I definitely learned a lot from it. Yeah,
he's a force of nature. Nick is in a show in the Abbey called Let the Right One In. It's based on the famous Swedish horror movie from a few years ago. It's brilliant. Go and see it. It opened last week. And it's run until, I think, just up before Christmas, I think. Don't hold me to that.
And check out his IMDb. It just goes on for days and days, and he's worked with everyone. So, yeah, really, really useful kind of information he was giving us.
Yeah, he's really brilliant, very humble, and it was mesmerising to have a conversation with him for a little while.
So, yeah, let's go to it.
Ticket. That's me doing the music. Squeaky Chair with Paul Butler Lennox, Paul Webster, and today we're very lucky to be joined by a wonderful actor by the name of Nick Dunning. Hello, Nick. Thanks a million.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Great. Pauls.
Both Pauls. Yeah, the two Pauls.
So we're here in the dressing room of the Abbey. Thanks very much for inviting us. Could you tell us a bit about the show that you're in at the moment?
Yeah, well, at the moment here we are. Yeah, this is dressing room number 1 in the Abbey Theatre, and we're literally underneath the stage where we're putting on the show called Let the Right One In, which you guys, or some of your listeners may be familiar with the Swedish movie that was done. Yeah. Let the Right One In, and there was apparently an American version as well, which I haven't seen, so I can't comment on that one.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It's kind of okay because the Swedish one has this extraordinary kind of feel to it and vibe, and I hope that that's what we're creating with the stage show because it's there are actually some moments where I find myself in the wings at night, just sneaking through the wings, watching the audience's reaction because there's like quite a few places where I know there's going to be real surprises that are coming. And it's just so exciting just watching their faces. And it's that kind of childlike thing of, people just being taken off into a journey, into a place they weren't expecting to go. just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, something pops up. It's great though.
Yeah, I would imagine it's a show that, you know, translates very well to the stage, because it has a very kind of tangible tone and energy, and it's suspense, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
So yeah, I guess what was it like interpreting a character that someone else has already portrayed on stage?
In the movie? Well, I mean, the
from
thing
the
is,
movie.
because the movie is different to the stage show, because for obvious reasons, you know, movies can do certain things that stage shows can't, and stage shows can do things that movies can't. And that's kind of one of the benefits of what it is that we do, because we utilize the whole theatrical experience in ways that you may not have seen, which I can't say too much about, because if I do, you won't be surprised. So, you know, it's kind of like, it's interesting. But to take on the actual character itself, because the character that I play in the book, in the novel original, was a much darker character. And in the Swedish movie, he's fairly dark. And in this one, he's fairly dark too. So, anyway, he's complex would be a way of describing him, I suppose.
Okay.
But it's been great fun trying to do it, and trying to kind of like, you know, to engage the audience and to bring them on a journey with you so that they believe in it. So that, you know, to actually make a kind of horror fairy tale feel as if it's real and is really happening is a little bit of a stretch for actors these days. But we're helped so much by the music. We've got incredible music and an extraordinary set.
Yeah.
And the movement that happens in the show, we train for like an hour and a half every day.
Oh my God.
Oh God! I mean, we're still feeling the effects. You know, we do a yoga class every night before the show, about half an hour, and we do like 20 minutes of vocal warm up, and then we do what we call fight call. You know, like Fight Club, it's like Fight Call.
Okay.
So we do one of those, and everybody comes along, and we go through all the tricky things that we have to do, and there's about 10 of them, and we do them as a group every single night, just for safety, because it's kind of...
it sounds like a very physical show.
It's a very physical show. I mean, more so for the 25-year-olds than it is for me, it has to be said. But certainly, yeah, we all do it.
I'd just like to ask you just about your beginnings in acting. Why did you want to be an actor?
Well, it's like, I don't know, I find this to be the case with most people, actually, is that, you know, that we always think there's a sort of a logical progression. It never seems to happen like that. I mean, when I was 5, I lived in France for a year with my parents. My dad was a language teacher, and he went over to France and started teaching English to French people. And so we went over there, and I stayed there for a year. And when I was 5, I played my first role, which was the Prince of the Fairies in Thumbelina.
Okay.
I noticed you laughed there, Paul. Thanks very much.
No, I'm sure it was. I'm sure you got excellent reviews.
It was from then on. It's been kind of a downward slope. But that's when I actually started, without knowing anything about it. Years later, like a lot of people, I did sort of school plays and things like that. Just got wowed by the whole thing, but never for a moment thought about it seriously. Never thought of it as a profession. Didn't even know that it was one. Then years later, I went to another school up in Leicester, because I'm from London originally, and I went to a school there, and there was a couple of amazing teachers there. One guy, Martin Riley, was this. He was just a phenomenon, and he sort of took us all down. We all reenacted the Canterbury Tales. And we all dressed up as the pilgrims. We went to Canterbury and we did performances of the plays. We walked along the actual walk that they walked on, dressed in the costumes that they wore, performing in the language that they used. And it was like kind of like a method immersion in sort of, you know, in the Canterbury Tales. And then we performed it outside Canterbury Cathedral. And that was where I started to go, oh, this is exciting. And again, it was a kind of like being in a group thing and kind of creating something. But I still didn't know what to do with it. And then probably a year or so after that, when I realised that academia and I were not going to meet happily or healthily, I thought, what am I going to do? And I was going to be, you know, had nothing happening at all. And this guy said, well, why don't you try drama school? And I remember saying, what do you mean?
There's a school for
this?
this?
He said, well, why don't you audition for drama school? I said, what's a drama school? I literally I had no idea, didn't know.
So it's quite organic up to that point.
Totally organic.
So you felt it sounds like you very much felt your way through it.
Totally, because there's no real progression, there's no process, there's no particular rule, for becoming an actor. Other people come in through different doors. So there's no one route. And it seems to be, when you talk to actors, that's often what happens, is they find themselves in it. Yeah. And particularly this business, I find it very unusual.
It's healthier, I would say, than maybe somebody
so.
who wants to be a star, and then acting is the medium to get there.
Absolutely.
So I would say, see it more as a craft.
Well, I see it more as it's more like a vocation for me, I suppose, but definitely a craft, definitely. Because I think you do have to work at it, and you do have to kind of like keep yourself motivated and motivating towards things that you really want to do, so that you're always feeling alive, because that's the most important thing, so that when you turn up, that you are actually, you can bring your life experience to what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged thing of kind of this, we've all, going towards the goals that we all want about, creating good work and working with good people and, making a living, hopefully, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Plus this kind of like making sure that your life is pretty much in balance as well.
Right.
Because for me, that's one of the dark sides of acting.
How do you cope with that? Do you find it's difficult to balance the scales in terms of, I guess, from a psychological point of view, but also, from just a practical point of view.
I think the two things go hand in hand. You need to be able to balance the practical side and the psychological side totally. I mean, I'm a big fan of sort of mental health, whatever that may mean. But generally speaking, for me, I think it means things like taking care of yourself, looking after yourself, going for walks in the hills, things like that, making yourself feel good, doing the things that you do that actually make that you like doing. Yeah. Then you feel better. Then you're ready. The worst thing any actors can do, and I've done it, so I know all about it, is you sit by the phone and you wait for the phone to ring and nothing happens. Yeah. And then you talk to your friend and nothing's happening for him or her as well. So you both agree how depressed and miserable you are.
Yeah.
And then you kind of go, okay, let's agree that we love this black hole. Let's dive in even deeper. And then, hey, let's have a drink as well. And then you go further down. Right. And I don't know many actors who haven't been there, and I'm raising my hand at the moment. Yeah. Absolutely,
I guess the trick is to not to commiserate with yourself too much.
Totally. The trick is to engage with yourself, to support yourself. And dare I use the word, to love and appreciate yourself. Right? Seriously, really, it really is that. And it can be a little bit of a tricky thing to get through, and it's quite hard to do sometimes because it's a little bit kind of woo-woo, bit sort of out there.
Well, no, it's necessary.
But it's vital, because if you don't, then you fall prey to what else is.
Yeah, I guess it goes against that kind of stereotypical Boozer, O'Toole, Burton school of acting, where nothing affects us and kind of thing.
A very select few are able for that.
Well, those select few were also movie stars,
right?
Yeah.
So they may have been able to, because they had maybe the money to do it and what have you. But there was a lot of trail of misery around them,
of course.
Well. And a lot of those famous people you talk about then, they all had sons and daughters, some of whom we've all worked with,
right?
Who are deeply, troubled individuals.
Right.
It's not, you get what you.
You reap what you sow, most certainly. So I'd like to talk a little bit about your career. I mean, for want of a better term, I mean, you're a grafter. You consistently work, or you have done, or at least you're, from what I know of you, and certainly from your IMDb, it's a type of resume. I'd just like to ask you about, just in terms of your theatrical work, if I can just put it aside for one sec, but in terms of your early kind of work in your TV and working your way up the ranks to getting bigger jobs, and eventually you ended up obviously here, are there any early jobs that were seminal or important in terms of making you feel as if you were an actor early on? Or did you work with somebody and you went, okay, now I'm an actor?
I think there are certainly times, I think that must be the case, because I can certainly remember jobs when I was thinking, I haven't a clue what I'm doing. So that there must have been a time when I thought, oh yeah, this is okay, because I do feel okay now. I feel comfortable. It's kind of like if someone says tomorrow I've got to go and do a film, I'm happy with that. I'm fine. It doesn't trouble me.
Yeah.
I might be excited, I might be anxious, I might be all of that, but I kind of go, yeah, no, I can do that. That's okay. So there must have been a time when I didn't. But I as seminal jobs, I mean, The Firm was one of the first ones. That was a film I did years ago with Alan Clark, who passed away unfortunately. With Gary Oldman was the lead in it, and that was a sort of football hooligan film.
I've seen this. Yeah.
And that was one of those films which really became, because that was one of the ones where I went up for that role, the Gary Oldman part.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to the director Alan Clark, who did Scum and all these other. I mean, he was an amazing director, incredible guy, and going out for that part, and him saying to me while I was sitting there, because he spoke like that, all right, Nick, I definitely don't want one of those Gary Oldman type kind of characters. You don't want that. You just don't want that kind. I want somebody new, somebody different, somebody young, somebody vital. This kind of thing, and of course they cast Gary Oldman, and that's. But then I went, oh shit! But I really enjoyed the audition that I'd had with the guy. So I said to my agent, listen, I really want this job. Can we see if there's something else in this film? I love working with the guy. I've really got a buzz off him. Is there anything else? Can we go and see if there's something else? And then he let me read for something else. But I persisted, and that was a big thing. Actually, now I look back on it, thinking, okay, I didn't take the no as a no, which you could do. Oh, I didn't get the big role I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, no, I want to be part of this. And then I tried to be part of that because it did seem bigger than me, and it seemed important to me to go after that.
So you fought?
Did, absolutely.
It's interesting.
Still
I was watching an interview with
Madonna writes letters. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Madonna writes letters.
Yeah.
So you've got to do this. It's vital that we remember that we need to kind of like put ourselves out there, and that can mean doing things that are a little bit uncomfortable, and it is a bit uncomfortable sometimes. But do we really want to live in the comfort zone all the time?
No, absolutely.
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, I was watching an interview with Anthony Hopkins recently, and he was saying, have you any advice or life advice? Because obviously he's getting on now and come to the end of his career.
Yeah,
not necessarily his life. But the man's 80 years of age. But he was like, have you one single piece of advice you'd give people from your life experiences? And he was like, to fight. To fight. That's all. So yeah, ties very much in with what you were saying.
I think, but when you say to fight, that it maybe sounds aggressive, and I don't think it needs to be that, because fighting for something that you want is more about kind of like seeing it happening and just following it and going after it. I mean, that may have been the way that it works for him, and that clearly it's worked for him. No doubt about it. To me, fighting for something is a little bit. It's important to make sure that you keep that sort of sense of things, kind of working. That was just so that we noticed.
Just give it a bit of context.
Craig Connolly, the actor, coming into his dressing room, even though it was mentioned to him yesterday this would be happening.
That's no problem. These things happen.
No, it's great.
Yeah, and it just to touch on, to kick on. You're a purveyor of positivity through some of your other work, your altruistic work, and in terms of helping other actors and imparting advice and wisdom and so on. Is visualization of success a big part of how you operate?
Absolutely. The reason I do that is because it works. There's no other reason. I first came across it. I trained in NLP, as you know, but to be honest, I kind of, that's all sort of like part of me now. It's not really something I focus on that much, but it's still there. But visualization is really just imagination. And it's actually believing in something and knowing that when you follow something that you believe in and that you can really see and experience it as if it's happening right here, right now, then it becomes real, right? It's like this is without getting too complex. There's no such thing as the past and there's no such thing as the future. neither of them exist. Because if I said to you, what did you do yesterday? You have to think to a place inside your mind right now to try and locate something you were doing yesterday. Or if I say imagine in the future coming up, you have to start to create something right now. There is only ever the now. There's only ever this moment in time. So when you start to create and use your mind, which is designed to work specifically for you, to support you and to help you to achieve anything you've ever wanted, then it seems natural to me that you follow along with that. A lot of people don't really believe that just by, if I just stick a few pictures of a Ferrari on the notice board, that means I'm going to get one. Mm-hmm. That's not the way it works, in my experience. I'm not a great believer in the whole, The Secret, I think there's a lot of truth inside it, but I don't think this thing of, ask and you get it actually happens. If I visualize a major motion picture career, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to have it, because you've got to have a progression of experience that goes along with that. There's no magic bullet. You have to work your way up these things. It's just the way it is.
Mm. Could you talk a little bit about the relationship between the director and the actor, and what you see as what makes a good director, and what maybe some advice for what directors shouldn't do and that kind of thing?
For directors, you mean, are you talking specifically about TV or theatre?
Mainly TV and film.
Well, TV and film, interestingly enough, the last 4 directors I've worked with have been women. That's one of the most interesting changes.
And that's a good thing.
And that is a good thing. It is a good thing.
Yes.
And it's very, very different as well. It's very interesting to experience, I just did Little Women for BBC, and Vanessa Carswell directed that.
Right.
And that is a completely different approach. Working with the wonderful Lisa James Larson, we just did Striking Out for RTE. Yeah. And she's a Swedish director. She's just fantastic. And with Frida Vendel as well, who's her DOP, with a female DOP, and the producers are women, and and the whole environment, the whole atmosphere was completely different. It was about everybody said, "What can I do to help you to get what it is you want?"
When you say different, in what way was it different?
Well, I think literally that. If you there was
it was calmer.
Calmer. First assistants can get a bit.
Yeah. Okay, everyone.
You're on time now. Come on, let's go. That kind of and it makes people panic, and we all know Clint Eastwood says nothing. Clint Eastwood doesn't say action anymore. Did you know? I don't even know.
No, I've heard that. Yeah, when you're ready or in your own time.
Yeah. So let's go. Let's go now. Yeah. And it makes you just stay in here. You stay in the zone. You be able to talk to each other. Very much more like that. That kind of an atmosphere itself, I find gentler, more calming, more reassuring, more engaging, and more exciting. Okay. So, I mean, it's that. Yeah. So, for me, this whole thing of what it is that directors can do, the director's job for me is to facilitate me to be the best I can possibly be. Yeah. And that means me being as humble as I possibly can to hear some of the things I may not want to hear to achieve that. So, it's a kind of a balance sometimes between being, it's always a tricky one, because you've got to be proactive as an actor, but you don't want to be so proactive you make the director feel irrelevant. Yeah. So it's like leaving a space so that you can share the space between you, so that you're both actually creating something. Okay. And then when the directors, for me, it's a win-win situation. I want to give them what they want, and I want them to give me what I want. That's the way I kind of frame it, really. Yeah. I think. That makes any sense?
No, it does. No, absolutely, very much so. I was just thinking about it.
Yeah. And what I would say for young actors, do you see a difference? Is there new challenges?
Many new challenges. I mean, the biggest challenge is self-taping. I mean, that's the biggest thing at the moment. Yeah. On my site, I run a site, and I've just created a course about self-taping because it is such a challenge. Yeah. And it became a challenge to me, which is why I had to do something about it. I started up about probably 2 years ago. I got to do the pilot season for US. Yeah. And because you probably know that you don't go to LA necessarily so much anymore as we used to. Right. They come here now, and you can send in a self-tape for American shows and big shows and all that. and I had 9 self-tapes to do in 10 days. And it was and I had there were each one of them had three scenes, and each scene was 3 pages long.
Okay.
And I had to do all this. And round about when I got into shows like Genius, you know, Ron Howard's Genius.
It's a fantastic show.
The Alienist. There's another one that's shooting fairly soon. Into the Badlands was one of the shows that I went up for, because originally it was out in LA when it did its first season out there. Now it's over here.
Yeah.
But then it was there. And I'm round about the 5th thing I got to, I just didn't know who I was anymore.
Right.
My brain was overwhelmed. I was overloaded. I remember I started to do things. There was one, it was a sort of a police situation, something like that. And I remember trying to turn my kitchen into a police station. I'd actually gone that mad. And I thought, what's the best way I can use the fridge to make it look like, it was
using cling film rolls.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was just, and I thought, hold on a minute, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And then I got the big wake-up call. I didn't get a single one of them. Not one. Nothing. And I didn't get any feedback. I asked my agent, find out why, what's happening, what do we do? Nothing, not a thing. Now that's not uncommon. I'm sure most of us know that you don't get things coming back often. You don't often get feedback. But I thought to myself, there's something wrong. What I'm doing is wrong somehow.
Technically, or
well, this is what I started to look into. So I looked into the whole thing, and I came up with, after sort of like 7 or 8 months of looking into what was going on, that there are 4 principles of self-taping. Mm-hmm. The first one is the producer's POV, what it is that they're looking for, called the 4 Ps, right? So it's the producer's POV, what they're looking for. So if you can match what they're looking for, then you're more than likely going to get the job. But your self-tape has to do something very powerful. It has to change the energy in the room. Because casting directors, I don't know if you've ever been into a busy casting directing office when they're in the middle of casting something.
Yeah, I have.
They can, well, you know what it's like.
I'm usually straight back out though.
Yeah, but you see what it's like. There can be like
it's frenetic. It's frenetic.
There can be 20, 30 people all rushing around, and that's what your self-tape is looked at. That's the environment your self-tape is often looked at in. So your self-tape has to go bang. It's got to pull them out. It's got to get them to focus in a new way. Now, I don't mean by doing something surprising, but it has to have something that's going to stop them. To stop their pattern and interrupt what it is that they're doing. You've got to be able to grab their attention. Mm-hmm. So that's the first important thing. And then the next one is production, which is all to do with cameras and lights and backgrounds and what have you. And in America, the casting directors recommend a different colour background to the ones we use over here. In America, they recommend mid-blue. That's the colour that they use for self-tapes. So if you're going up for an American show, it's a good idea to have a sort of mid-blue background. Now, does this mean it's going to get you the job? No. Mm-hmm. But it's just a little subliminal hint that you know what you're doing. Okay. And it can add to whatever your performance is. We were talking before this podcast about microphones, how important microphones are to what it is that you do, and that a movie is never actually made until the sound is added. And that is absolutely the same with self-tapes. If you can get a decent microphone, on my site I give out a sort of a thing called the iPhone Buyer's Guide, which is a kind of guide of all the stuff I use for stuff, and it's totally free. So if anyone wants it, they can just drop me a line. And in it, you can get things like there's the lavalier microphone from Amazon, and it's like 20 euros, something like that, and it will double the effectiveness of just the sound quality that you use. And it's particularly useful for women, oddly enough, because it's the place that you put the microphone is just round about your sort of sternum area, and that's where you resonate most. So your deeper tones will be picked up, and women tend to have slightly higher voices and tend to, obviously not all women, some women have, but sometimes they can sound a little high in the way that they come across. So using a lavalier microphone pinned just on the sternum is a really powerful place for a woman to
gives it resonance.
Gives much more resonance. Yeah. Then the last 2 things is your psychology, the psychology, your mindset, how you approach the self-tape. You know, are you in? Because the way I look at it and came to the realization was because when we go on a film set and there's all those other people around and people are giving you cups of tea and the lights are coming in and the cameras are moving around and you feel the dollies coming in, there's this huge kind of theatrical excitement about, you know, we're getting ready to shoot something here. And that level of energy is so kind of like, you know, engaging and electric. That's the kind of level of energy you've got to get to. Because that's what level of energy you use when you're performing.
Is there a term to describe that collective energy?
I would call it well, as a collective energy, that's what we were talking. That's a slightly different thing, actually. What we're talking about. I'll come back to that. That's the unified field. That's a different thing. But this energy, the energy level that you perform at, generally speaking, when you're at home in your kitchen and you've got your iPhone and your dogs, and you're thinking, you know, shall I get this? Shall I watch TV or not? Oh, I better do this. Your energy level is generally a little bit lower, and so what you shoot is generally lower than what you do when you're on a set. And there's something interesting in that. So it's important to raise your energy level so that you literally, so that you make a kind of an energetic connection with the casting director. Because when you see that, you know it yourself, when you see you kind of go, oh. It just has that kind of a wake-up call. And that's what you need to do with self-tapes. And the final thing is literally the performance itself, the sides. You've got to break down sides so that you know the beginning, the middle, and the end of the sides. Because sides are always sent out for a reason, because they're trying to see what your response is going to be to this particular role. They want to know what it is that you can do that's different to what everybody else does. Because they know what everybody else does. The example I often give is like, you know, of if you're playing a doctor and the doctor fancies the nurse, and that's the scene, and he comes and goes, hello. Everyone is going to play the scene like that. They're going to come in and just, hello, you look, how are you today? Looking at the chart and a smile, and yes, and you hope the woman's going to go, oh, hello, doctor. That's the basic scene. Right? We know that. Yeah. They know that. So whenever you've got a scene, you've got to find something new, something different, something unique to you about the way that you would look at that scene. Because then you're sending across a message about you, not about them. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if you do what they already know, you ain't going to get the gig. You've got to do something different, a little bit unique, and that'll make a difference.
Yeah,
you know?
That's great. That's very.
So you want to talk about the unified field?
Yeah, just well, I guess we can touch on it quickly since we're talking about something similar about energy. Actors, I find through my experience that dealing with a lot of actors when they're not on, can often bring a negative energy sometimes. They can carry. I know, just generally speaking, that a lot of creatives can suffer from depression and so on, and that's unavoidable. Sure. But in terms of,
I have to stop you there. It's not unavoidable. In my opinion, it's absolutely not unavoidable. In my opinion, and I'm not a doctor.
Well, it certainly can be reduced.
It can be reduced. Well, if you can reduce it, you can eliminate it.
Okay.
I believe.
Well, you shouldn't take it as a given.
No, it's not a given. Yeah. It isn't a given. You know, if you think about it, all that's going on is that there's, generally speaking, now I'm not talking about medical conditions, because there's a medical condition of depression, which is very different. But what we generally associate with the feeling of, you know, I feel a bit...
I'm down in the doldrums.
Down in the doldrums. All that's going on is what's going on is your physiological response, what your body is doing. You've got your thoughts, what's going on, and you've got your mind's responses, and that's pictures, patterns, sounds, and feelings. So if you, for example, if I asked you to, you know, if you try and be depressed, you know, and you make your body curl over and you make your, you know, shoulders bend over, and you start saying to yourself inside your mind, you know, yeah, I'm really shit, I'm really crap at this, I'm never going to work ever again, yeah, my life sucks, I'm bad, I'm never going to live again, it's terrible. What do you think's going to happen? And then if you think about it, try in that state, try and be happy, try and be positive. And actually it's impossible, because you can't. Because to be happy, you have to adopt a happy posture. You have to have a little bit of lightness in your body. So if your body can change to being a little bit more up, then your breathing can start to come up, then your thoughts can start to change, and then you can recognize that your thoughts are just thoughts. One of the biggest things that I notice from coaching is that people believe that their thoughts are facts. And that's the way that they treat them. You know, if they say that your thought, you know, supposing you have a negative thought, and this is often one of the ones that actors have to create sort of depressive feelings, is they say, you know, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, it's impossible, I'm never going to get to see Maureen Hughes because all these other people are in the way. And there's a kind of cycle that we can do. That's just stuff.
So it's a choice. It's a choice to be positive.
Absolutely.
So it's choose to be positive.
Absolutely. But also it has to become a habit. Because it's very easy to become a habit negatively, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's harder to make a choice to go the other way. But actually, it's still just a choice. And it's still just a habit. And whenever you do something on a daily basis, on a regular basis, it becomes ingrained. And then what happens is your brain suddenly kicks in and it starts to take over. And you automatically start to generate. You know, see, my thing is about, you know, when you started to learn to drive a car, you remember when you get in there for the first time, you sit down and you know, there's the pedal, which one is that? What am I? You can't do anything. Yeah. And it takes a good, week, 2 weeks before you start to... That's just the uncomfortable nature and the struggle at the beginning of your brain saying, what is this new thing you want me to do? Yeah. That's the same with happiness. It's the same with positive thinking. It's the same with creativity. It's the same with confidence. It's the same with anything that you do that's new. You have to allow yourself to do something different, and it will feel a little bit strange. Here's an exercise. You got time for this?
Of course we do.
Take your hands, get your hands together, right? Give your hands a shake like that. And you can do this at home as well. And just put your fingers together, through your fingers through each other, and put your thumbs one on top of the other. Okay? Now there, which thumb have you got on top?
Left.
Left. Yeah, we're all left. We're all lefties. Okay? Now, switch your thumbs over for a second. Put the right one on top. How does that feel?
Odd.
Yeah, it's odd, yeah.
Right, it's odd. Now that's all that's happening is your brain is sending a signal that this is something new. This is something different. I don't recognize this. You can put it back. Go back to the other way.
Don't do this to me.
Torture. The torture podcast. You didn't know it was going to happen. But isn't it weird? Yeah. And yet, if you think about it, all you're doing is exactly the same thing. Yeah. But you're just changing the way you do something. And by literally doing that, you're sending different signals inside your brain that start to shift what it is that you want to do. And over time, you can, if you want, have your thumb the other way around as well. All I'm trying to suggest is that whenever you want to do something new, you need to experience it, and it needs to be a bit uncomfortable at first.
To get over that hump.
You get through the hump. It's like giving up smoking, you know. You've got to get through those first couple of days or those first months. Yeah. Once you're through it, giving up smoking is easy. It's the same with anything. If you want it, you've got to do it.
You've built up all this experience over the years, and it's great. You have your course, you're online, and you're giving it for free, and which is brilliant. It's like you're kind of sending the elevator back down. Is there anyone along the way that really helped you?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. How long have you got? Oh yeah.
6 minutes.
6 minutes. Martin Riley. I thought absolutely. I would say the guy at the drama school, the head there, Hugh Crotwell. Oh yeah. Oh my God. He was absolutely inspirational.
What were the kind of nuggets that you took up?
Well, he gave me a great. He just basically, I think he made me feel that I could do things. Really, I think it's that. Yeah. Mike Alfreds. I worked with a company called Shared Experience I did 12 shows with them. He would always make you do weird, strange, unusual things that would challenge you. And I used to hate them and resent them like crazy sometimes. But once you get through them, they're good, you know. Yeah. Ian Holm was a phenomenal actor I worked with who said something. I was in a very difficult space at the time, and he said something incredibly kind and encouraging to me at the time. That made a huge difference. Kieran Hines, someone else. When I was at drama school with Kieran. He was in the year above me. Kieran was an inspiration then to those of us who were younger than him. He just was a decent person to everybody he was with. Yeah. And I remember thinking, that's good. I like that. I'm going to try and do that. I remember thinking that.
Right.
So, Kieran, definitely. Harold Pinter, yeah, my God. He came up to me, this is a ego boost, but when we did, what was it, the Homecoming on Broadway, he came up to us after us one night and said, I just want to say, Nick, you're the best Teddy ever. And it was Teddy was the part I was playing, and there'd been 20 roles there. And so for me to hear that from him just kind of was like,
you don't know what that means.
You don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And those kind of things are very important. They can be really important.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone, so when we were doing Alexander, he came up to me in the middle of a scene, he said, play this scene like, be a star. Be a star. And I thought, what's he talking about? What does he mean, be a star? What do you mean, be a star? Colin Farrell's a star. I'm just the actor. And then I thought, oh no, I know what he means. He means take the scene.
Okay.
Play the scene like it's yours. You know, own the scene. Really kind of like, go for it.
Yeah.
No holds barred. Just really go for it. And that's a great thing to do.
Okay.
That's a great thing to do for self-tapes and auditions, by the way.
Okay.
Just really own it. Have it.
Mm-hmm.
Know that it's yours.
Make a decision.
Make a decision that it's yours, that you own it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you own it, you can go in there and you can really just do it. When you just do it, generally it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of think, I didn't get it. Then you go, okay, fair enough. Didn't get it. That's okay.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing. Never ever spend time beating yourself up about the fact you didn't get a job. There's lots of work out there.
Yeah.
Loads. More actors spend way too much time going down the black hole of misery than they do on creating whatever's coming next.
Yeah.
And you guys are very, very good examples of that. You really do get this stuff going and you put it out there. You do it and you keep doing it. That's really extraordinary stuff.
I appreciate that.
Really.
I'll just ask you one quick question,
Sure.
which I think is kind of important to Irish filmmakers and actors, because we're all in such a small pool, small little pond.
Sure.
How, from your perspective, you're involved in lots of different things. Obviously, your altruistic work, and your career as well. But how do you deal with rejection?
I first of all don't accept it. I don't believe it exists. That's the first thing. And there's an exercise for that.
You don't say.
Yeah. All right. Very quickly.
Come
Here
on.
you go. Can you think of if I said to you, can you think of how many? This usually works in a bigger room. This is actually one of my coaches, Brendan Bouchard's exercise. It's not mine, so I'm just passing it on. And basically, he would say, like, you get in a room and say there's 20, 30 people. And if you say, okay, everyone put your hands up who's ever experienced rejection profoundly. And everyone puts their hand up. And then he says, how many have experienced, 3 or 4 profound rejections? And probably 40, 50% of the room, hands go down. Then we say, anyone, with 10 rejections, all the hands go down. But if you say to people, how many times have you received something good from people? Everybody's hands go up. When you say, how many times have you received something good from, say, 10 people, most of the hands stay up. And if you say from 50 people, most of the hands stay up. And that's a fact that is proven over and over again. And what that means is, it depends what you're looking for. If you start searching, it's what we call in the brain, you call it what the brain is actually searching for. When the brain is searching for, looking and finding support, positivity and encouragement, that's what you find. When you start looking for negativity, depression, upset, fear and misery, that's what you find. That's why on my site I ban the word audition. Because I ask actors, I say, what does the word audition mean to you?
To audit something.
Audit.
To
Yeah,
analyse.
there you go. To analyse. But in terms of feelings, they tend to say things like misery, fear, depression, upset, rejection, loss, lack of earnings. That's what an audition means under the surface. And if you're thinking about that when you go in for your audition or for your self-tape, that's what you're focusing on.
Do you believe that type of that way of thinking is an inhibitor to the success of even when you get a job?
Totally.
So it's not conducive necessarily
No.
to
I think
getting a part.
At the moment, I'm playing a murderer and a killer, and in the first couple of pages of Let the Right One In, I slit somebody's throat. Now, if I need to get into that mindset to portray that character. So you need to get to know what that's about. What does he think about life? What does he think about, how easy is it to do that? Does he enjoy it? The answer is yes. That kind of thing, right? But when you come off the stage or off the self-tape, then everything else is still here. Then you've got to keep everything else moving. You've got to keep life kind of like bubbling along. That's when and then it becomes this reciprocal energy. And the reciprocal energy is the best thing of all. When somebody gives something to someone and it comes back, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And you kind of go, yeah.
In every walk of life.
In every walk of life, absolutely. Yeah. Can I just give a final plug for myself?
Of course you can.
All right.
Work away,
Well, just if any of you guys like to do it, I have a free screen acting crash course, which you're very welcome to take. And the website is http. Well, actually, I won't do that bit. It's just www.nickdunning.com. So it's pretty straightforward.
I'm not even an actor, but I think I'd get something from these courses.
I work with lots of people. I mean, I don't just work with actors. I really don't, because I've got a client of mine at the moment who's he's an estate agent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I have 2 estate agents. Yeah, actually, that's true.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah.
All right. You're all right.
That's grand.
And we're going to finish up anyway.
Clean
So
up stuff?
yeah, one sec. Thanks so much, Nick.
You're
That
welcome.
was
Cut.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Right at the very end.